Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest installment of New York Shakespeare. We are here today on Zoom with our friends from Hamlet Isn't Dead, who famously tout themselves as the 574th best Shakespeare group in New York City. But we'll get to that in just a second. My name is Rodney Hakeem. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, or perhaps who are joining us once again, my name is Rodney Hakeem. I'm the voice behind the New York Shakespeare social media feeds, and our aim is to bring to you as much Shakespeare as we can as is happening in and around New York, whether that is stage performances, book releases, podcasts, film screenings, or whatever the case might be. We try to bring to you as much content as we can to keep you all in the know as to what is going on in the world of Shakespeare here in New York City and in the neighboring areas. For the past several weeks, we've been shining our spotlight. We've been sending our focus discreetly on the world of Shakespeare education. It's back to school season. Kids are back to school. Not kids are back to school. Adults, people of all ages are back to school. And we all are in the process of lifelong learning. And we've had a chance to have some really great chats with some different educators, writers, scholars. And that is all available across the New York Shakespeare social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere else. Connect with New York Shakespeare to find out the latest of what's going on, and also to connect with those interviews. Our archives are on YouTube and on Instagram, so you can check out those pages for all of our past discussions. But today we are here with a discussion with one of our favorite groups, and I mentioned they have their cheeky way that they describe themselves as depending on which time we talk to them, they move up or down in the rankings in the number one and I think about 1,000 about where they rank in the world of Shakespeare in New York. So let us welcome one of the members of the Hamlet Isn't Dead group, or as they call themselves, the Hidiots. Let us welcome today's guest, and that's Valerie Peter Chong. Hello, Val.
Hello, thank you for having me once again.
It's a pleasure. We spoke to you maybe about a year or so, and you guys were doing some different things at that time. I think maybe earlier this year, you and Sophia Carlin were working on a production of All's Well That Ends Well. I think maybe that was in March or April, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and it ended well.
And it ended well. All's well that ends well. It ended well. Perfectly said. And now you have, upon you starting this Friday, October 13th, Friday the 13th, you have the latest production from Hamlet Isn't Dead, and that is Antony and Cleopatra. What are the run dates for Antony and Cleopatra, Val?
So it'll open on Friday the 13th, October 13th, and that'll be at 7:30 p.m. And then we'll also perform on the 14th and the 19th, 20th, and 21st. So that's the Saturday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we'll have 7:30 p.m. performances as well as a 2 p.m. matinee on the Saturdays.
Okay. All right. So you got 2 weekends. You got this weekend coming up and the weekend following that with a couple of extra performances in there. You have the Thursday, you have the Saturday matinee. But people should definitely check this out. Hamlet Isn't Dead, from the very beginning of when I started the New York Shakespeare social media feeds, has been one of the groups I'd always love to feature because you guys are such a wonderful troupe. And the group, if I remember, give me a quick history lesson. Hamlet Isn't Dead is celebrating recently, maybe a few months ago. You celebrated your 10th anniversary, right?
That's correct. We are 10 years old now.
Okay.
Double digits.
10 years old. The training wheels are off, and you're riding off. But yeah, Hamlet Isn't Dead isn't doing great stuff. You guys have a really fun approach to how you do your shows. The shows they're presented dead serious, but it's also has a lot of flair of humor into it. It has musicality to it. You often have a live band on stage. Is that the best way to describe what a Hamlet Isn't Dead show is like?
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. We try to make it as fun and playful as possible because we think that's the way to make it as accessible as possible. We want our audiences, whether they are Shakespeare scholars or they've never seen or read a Shakespeare play in their whole lives, to know what's going on and to have fun. And so, yes, we instill a lot of humor, but also Shakespeare's pretty funny on its own. So we mostly just emphasize that. And then we utilize live music as well.
Okay, all right, yeah, and I think that's one of the regular things that you guys incorporate, and you guys are in the center at West Park over on, I think it's the 79th and
86th in Amsterdam.
I was close. I was close.
Close.
Maybe I'm being dyslexic today. I reversed some of the numbers there. But yeah, you're and that's a historic church over there, and it can be really interesting the way that the shows that you're doing have some synergy with the space that you're in, because you're in this old historic church, which maybe has seen some better days aesthetically, but it has a really interesting aura to the space that you're in over there. And I think one of the performances I caught was Macbeth that you guys did over there maybe last season, and it was really interesting to see some of the echoes of what is happening in the text and what the space that you're performing in is. So you're there again this time around, and do we have the band on stage? Is Maureen the band leader this time once again?
Maureen has moved on and taken only like one job at a time now. We're very proud of her.
I think that's something that you all can lay claim to, of being of wearing many hats, doing 1,000 things at once.
We are all very much busybodies, and I think that's why our theater is so special, is because everyone who's here has chosen to be here and is here not because it makes a ton of money, but because it's a lot of fun and we love what we do. That said, we have people move on and find more stability in their lives. I did rent the drum kit from Mo and her partner Duke, so they're still very much idiots, just not directly.
Okay. They're inactive idiots. And yes. Speaking of inactive idiots, there was a change or transition in leadership in Hamlet Isn't Dead about 6 months or a year ago, where right around the time of the 10th anniversary, the original founders, David Andrew Laws and what's the other gentleman's name? It's on the
James Reitmeyer.
James Reitmeyer Jr. The two of them had founded Hamlet Isn't Dead, and I think maybe there was a third individual that was helping them in the beginning, who also went on to do different things. But the two of them, I think, were the ones who were with Hamlet Isn't Dead the longest. And at some point a few months ago, that leadership changed. Tell us what that change was about.
Yeah, so 10 years is a really long time, and a lot changes in 10 years. And so David and James, when they started the company, their goal was to get through the entire canon of Shakespeare. That takes a really long time. We still haven't done it all. We have, after this show, 9 shows left, which is actually not that many, all things considered.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were moves, changes in families. James had a baby who just turned 1.
Oh,
and I know, and he's so cute. So they're still very much they're still very much idiots. We call them idiots at large when they, both admin and our resident actors, when they are still very much with us, but they're not as involved as they used to be. Although David is still very much involved. But Sophia and I, who had been kind of taking the lead with the resident acting company, I originally joined on as the associate artistic director, and Sophia has worn a lot of hats for us.
Sophia Carlin, you're referring to, who is the,
yes.
I think she, at this point now, the structure is that she is the company's
creative
director, and you're the artistic director, is that right?
I'm the company director and she's the creative director. We decided to do all new titles because if we're in charge, we can invent things.
There you go, the stamp of leadership. So you're the company manager, and I assume that entails deciding who is going to be in the resident acting company this year, right?
Yes, and making sure that our company, which we have a company of 36 individuals, which is a lot.
That's a big company.
Mm-hmm. So making sure that they are supported, that we are embracing diversity, handling any conflict that comes about, and just making sure that it's a safe and productive environment. I would say that's like the main aspect of the company and director, but Sophia and I kind of mix and match what we do together. It's hard to differentiate.
Well, it's that sometimes those leadership roles overlap with each other, but even the fact of coordinating and settling in on who is a 36-member resident acting company. That's no small feat to do that. So what length of time did it take to put together a 36-member company?
Well, I would say 10 years. I haven't been here the whole 10 years, but when I joined, our resident acting company was expanding from, I believe, 20 to 30. And then we added a couple more this year. So it's been slowly growing over the course of the decade that we've been about.
Okay, all right. So we spoke about some of the things that define the Hamlet Isn't Dead presentational style. You have the humor, you have the music, you have the some of the creativity that you guys inject into it, some of the fun and the love that you inject into it. Is aside from that, is there anything that you would say is what really characterizes what Hamlet Isn't Dead is all about?
I would say direct address is the other big one. So for those of you who may not know what that means, it means that our actors are not going to be talking to a spot on the wall. They're going to be talking to you. We don't really, I don't like saying audience participation because I feel like that just makes people freeze up and makes people afraid that they're going to be brought up on stage. We don't do that. But we really do talk to you. Sometimes we like ask for you to answer a question, or we'll offer a high five. But really, we want the audience to feel as much a part of the story and a part of our world that we've created as we do. We don't really believe in a fourth wall.
Okay, all right, and that, if I remember correctly, that sometimes entails the actors not just directing the speech directly to an audience member from the stage, but coming off the stage and into the audience and going around, and sometimes they're in somebody's lap or right in somebody's face, or whatever.
No one's gonna sit in your lap. I just want to...
Except me. That I demand that if someone's gonna come, give me a nice big hug. But, okay, I'm joking around. But anyway. You have the resident acting company. You have 36 members, some who have been with the company for many years, some who are more recent additions. From that, do you do auditions for each specific show, or is it kind of the point that, okay, I know this person, they've been with us for X number of time, they are perfect to be Antony, they are perfect to be Cleopatra, or is it a more rigorous process?
So we will have one show per season that is a RAC exclusive showcase. RAC is our shortened version of Resident Acting Company.
Right.
So Antony and Cleopatra is a RAC showcase. So we have only cast from our Resident Acting Company, which meant that for our Resident Acting Company auditions, they also doubled as Antony and Cleopatra because we had a really quick turnaround. So we were very cognizant that we didn't feel we had someone who fit Cleopatra. And so when we were auditioning for new members for our resident acting company, we were also looking for people who we thought could play Cleopatra. And we found a really wonderful Cleopatra in Nasa Lozano. But when we do Othello, which will be in the spring, we will be opening that up to outside auditions.
Okay, so that's coming up in the spring. And so we mentioned who we have playing Cleopatra. Who do we have playing Antony?
Travis Clem, who counter to Nasa, has been with Hamlet Isn't Dead for years and years and years. I think since it started.
Okay, all right, great. And I'm sure we have many of the familiar faces that have been with the group for a long time. And do you have all 36 members of the company in this show, or is it...
No, we have a cast of 10 and we have 4 understudies. So we weren't even able to cast half of our resident acting company. So we still have so much talent that we are excited to share in special programming that we're hoping to set up. And we'll have some of them in Othello and all of that.
Okay, all right, fantastic. So you have Antony and Cleopatra coming up, and that is kind of like a challenging schedule that you guys set up for yourselves. You had All's Well That Ends Well earlier this year. And in the summertime, you guys were participating in the Little Shakespeare Festival downtown. And what was the show you had there? It was a variation on
Shrew You.
Shrew You. Yeah, I remember it was a variation on Taming of the Shrew. And that was, give me just a quick rundown of what that was all about.
It was a very abridged version of Taming, about an hour long, and it was an all women cast. So there were 4 people who played all of the characters. There were some puppets who also played the characters. And basically it was an examination of Taming of the Shrew and putting it on its head, because it is, dare I say, the most sexist of the Shakespeare canon. But we were able to like kind of point that out and have a cast of women making fun of how sexist it is and reclaiming it as their own. So that was a really fun and special show.
Okay, so that was the summer, and now we were in the fall, and you have Antony and Cleopatra, which is, again, it's no small feat to put on a show of this magnitude. It's one of the biggies. It's one of the big political dramas. So, given that you guys have the fun kind of what's the word for it? Irreverent approach to some of the text, where you have this you keep everything very grounded in reality, but there's a real fun spirit that you bring to it. So how do you approach a text like Antony and Cleopatra with that divergence of seriousness and fun?
So first things first, we read the play. This one is a doozy. And I hadn't been familiar with it. Sophia had read it before. I had not read it before. I, of course, knew the story, because who doesn't know the story? But it's one of the longest ones. So we read the whole thing, then we figure out how do we want to distill it down, cut it up, because we never do Shakespeare in its entirety. We try to keep it under 2 hours.
Right.
This one was a challenge, keeping it under 2 hours. But we did it, if you don't count the intermission.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Keep that in mind. And then what we do when we bring it into rehearsal is we remind the actors that we are not adding any tragedy. When we take a script, we uplift any comedic moments. There's always jokes. And we don't add tragedy, because the tragedy is already there and it comes from the text. And by highlighting the humor, we'll actually, in contrast, elevate the tragedy just by elevating the humor.
That's great. That's great. That's a great approach, and I've seen you guys do it, and it's really exciting. I remember in one of the productions I saw, there were some moments that I had seen before in other iterations of the show, and I had never seen some of the humor that you found, and there were some really, really fun things that you guys found in there. So I look forward to seeing what Antony and Cleopatra is going to be like, and what are going to be the humorous spots that were never humorous before, but in Hamlet Isn't Dead's capable hands, we'll find a ray of sunshine, a ray of humor in there. Are there any particular moments that we should be on the lookout for? Anything that you guys are really honing in on? Like, this is okay, guys. Make sure you hit this one. This is the big laugh line. This is the big moment. Any of those that we should be twiddling our thumbs and being in great anticipation for?
Well, I think everyone should be very, very excited about the music. We are going 80s with this. We're going to have a live rock band on stage. The song of the show is Tainted Love, because of course it is. It's Antony and Cleopatra. In terms of moments in the show, without spoiling anything, I'd keep an eye out for when Cleopatra strikes the messenger. We've definitely made it different in this show. And then the truce between all of the Romans, before the truce very inevitably gets undone, is a very, very fun scene where you see a lot of joy and camaraderie before they all decide they hate each other again.
Okay. All right. And in selecting Antony and Cleopatra to go on right now, was there a particular moment in the current zeitgeist, anything that you really wanted to make this show speak to, or something about now that made this show need to happen in this slot?
So when we look at what we could do in the next season, we are restricted in that we're trying to do the canon as much in the general order it was written as we can, although that doesn't always work. We're doing Othello quite late because it would have happened in 2020, and we didn't feel prepared to tell a respectful story in that time. But Also, the thing about Antony and Cleopatra is really it's a story about a lot of individuals who have their own individual motives and who reject their community because of self-interest. And in many ways, this is a spiritual successor to when we did the Scottish play. I'm in the theater right now, so I'm not going to say the name because I am still suspicious, even not suspicious, superstitious.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Even though I've done the show. But it's a spiritual successor in that that show was all about the community that was affected because of the actions of a few. And you saw very clearly all of the people on the stage. There were a lot of moments where the stage was full of bodies. And in this show, there's a lot of moments where it's just one person up on stage telling a monologue. Because that was what was really striking about the show was how much we're in Rome and we're in Egypt and it's one person sending a message and it's 30 different characters who only appear on the stage once. And so by distilling it down and making it a cast of 10, there are a lot of monologues that weren't previously monologues because we want to highlight that the absence of community is what is wrong about the play, is what is bringing about the tragedy. And in terms of what's going on in the modern zeitgeist, I think I was very inspired to tell a story about community for the Scottish play because it was 2021. You were seeing lots of mutual aid groups coming about, lots of people coming together because of the isolation they felt during lockdown and because of the feeling the drive to support one another. Now that things are a little bit less scary, but in many ways still more scary.
Right. Different
you
kind
find
of scary.
people pulling apart and just focusing on themselves, especially with inflation. Like, I'm just going to try to make my ends meet and I can't focus on anyone else. And because of that, we're feeling isolated and we're isolating ourselves once again when we don't have to.
Very good point. Very good point. All right. And all great reasons to come out to the theater to come and catch a show. So give us a reminder. It's running this Friday the 13th until the following Saturday, and that is the
21st.
21st. Okay. And that is at the Center for West Park. That's at 86th and
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. It was on the tip of my tongue. I had a lot of stuff on the tip of my tongue today. And remind us, how can people come and get tickets? And are there any special offers that you guys have to share with us today?
Yes, as a matter of fact. So you can get tickets if you go to hamletisn'tdead.com, you'll find the tickets there. Also, if you Google Hamlet Isn't Dead, Antony and Cleopatra, our Eventbrite will pop up. If you use the code at checkout for general admission, HIDIOTS 2023, so it's HIDIOTS 2023, then you'll get $10 off your ticket. And we also have student, senior, and veteran tickets available.
Okay, all right, you heard it here, exclusive from Val herself. Antony and Cleopatra, if you use the code HIDIOTS 2023, you get a great discount, and I definitely encourage our audience to go out and check out this show. Hamlet Isn't Dead, again, one of the groups that we always love to see and support, and they do great work in their 10th anniversary season. So Valerie Peter Chong, I thank you very much for joining us and telling us all about this wonderful show, and I encourage the audience, go out, support this group, support this show. Catch Antony and Cleopatra. It's not done so often in New York and not always done. It's the first time that this group is doing it in their endeavors to make their way all the way through the Shakespeare canon. So definitely go out and check it out. Once again, hamletisn'tdead.com. Valerie Peter Chong, thank you so much for joining us here today. All the best with the show. I'll see if I can come out and catch a show myself. And again, I'll be looking for hugs from the audience, from the cast.
Okay. I'll be sure to let the cast know in advance. You let me know when you're coming.
All right. Folks, my name is Rodney Hakeem from the New York Shakespeare social media feeds. A lot of stuff happening. My tongue is twisted now instead of stuff being on the tip of my tongue. New York Shakespeare social media feeds. Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, WordPress, and more for all the latest that is happening in the world of Shakespeare. And again, HamletIsn'tDead.com. Our favorite idiots are there, and they're going to work their way up past the 500s this time. I think you guys are going to crack maybe 400 favorite Shakespeare group this time. this time around. Val, thank you so much for joining us today and for your time. Best of luck with the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you all next time. Support your local Shakespeare.
Thank you.